I looked at a lot of news coverage since this started, and I want to show you two news reports from people. And this harkens back to what we saw during post-George Floyd around the country, including in cities like Portland, Oregon. The media goes out of its way to minimize violence and property destruction and threats to law enforcement. Look at this one. This is A1, please.
Demonstrations had been going on right outside the federal detention center. Most of those demonstrators were very peaceful. They were chanting, they were shouting. People were driving by, honking their horns. And again, they were expressing their anger about the detention of so many immigrants at the federal center. Most of the evening, the federal agents stayed inside the building, but at a certain point, some of the demonstrators got very close to the property. In fact, some of them went onto the property, started tagging the building, started banging on fences, and shortly after all that happened, the agents started firing off tear gas, and then they came.
Again, the tone of that is similar to what you see, that it's the agent's fault. It's law enforcement's fault for rounding these folks up. Here's another one. This is another news account of what's happening. Here's A2.
Large group of people. It could turn very volatile if you move law enforcement in there in the wrong way and turn what is just a bunch of people having fun watching cars burn into a massive confrontation and altercation between officers and demonstrators.
So
a bunch of fun watching cars burn and putting the onus on federal officials, including the National Guard and ICE, for defending themselves and for protecting themselves. Again, Democrats who should be on the right side listen to that kind of media from left-wing media, and they get a distorted impression, I guess, of what's going on. But the facts aren't unclear. Is this operation something that should be scrutinized? Yes. There are people in this country legally who are part of their community. They do day jobs, they take care of kids, they clean houses. It's a tough issue for the country to grapple with. And the human issue of people who want to come to these states. So these are tough issues. But what's not a tough issue is if ICE says we are on a mission to deport this group of people, and by the way, we say some of them are violent criminals, and then there's violence against ICE, there's no issue there about what's going on. What's going on there is the loss of order, the loss of civic order that's being carried out. And when the president of the United States says, we don't believe that the local officials can or will do what's necessary to protect order, we're going to bring in the National Guard and maybe active duty military. The Democrats should say, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for helping our local community deal with this. Continue to oppose the immigration policy if you oppose it. But how could a political party take the position that this is about being incited by the federal officials? That's the media side. The Democratic side is equally confusing. The Vice President of the United States under Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, who lives in Southern California, hasn't weighed in very specifically or very often since she left office on any public policy issue. She weighed in on this. She referred to the people who the government is trying under the law and follow through on President Trump's campaign promise to deport. She referred to them as our immigrant neighbors. Our immigrant neighbors. Now, technically true, they are immigrants. They're illegal immigrants. They are her neighbors. They live near her. But that term, which reflects a big heart, no doubt, is of a piece with what's going on now, where the Democrats want to say, this is Donald Trump's fault. That's basically what they want to say. The media and the Democrats want to say, this is Donald Trump's fault. It's really not his fault. He said he would do this as a candidate. He gave a big speech in Iowa during the campaign and said, this is what we're going to do. Okay. And now, in the wake of those words, in the wake of no ambiguity, I think, in anybody's mind who was paying attention about what Donald Trump planned to do, he's going into some blue places. There's no doubt. And there's no doubt that maybe he's doing it to be provocative. Maybe he's even doing it in terms of timing to change the subject. He sent ICE agents into Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket in Massachusetts, two blue places. Same thing. The local said, well, that woman is, takes care of my kids, or that guy sells me papaya in the park. Great. Really tragic to see these lives upended. But these are lives of people who whether they brought their kids with them or had kids here, or whether they're here without kids, chose to come to the United States illegally. My heart breaks for them on a human level. But the tens of millions of Americans who voted for Donald Trump in part to restore order, to make the system sane, not just for national security, not just for criminal justice reasons, but because we can't afford the reality of people taxing the healthcare system, taxing the education system. I don't understand how the Democrats think this is either the politically right thing to do, to turn this into an attack on law enforcement, a verbal attack on law enforcement, or the right thing to do in terms of policy. Because the right thing to do is to, if you don't agree with the president's immigration policy, fight him on it politically. But in this moment, when there's going to be more of this all over the country, when ICE officials are being attacked, how could anyone want law enforcement to be attacked? The indignant nature of Democratic officials in California pointing to all these things, again, that I keep hearing about. Trump's evil. Trump doesn't care about immigrants. Trump wants to destroy communities. Trump's, strong-armed law enforcement. They're shooting rubber bullets at reporters. They're tear gassing babies in strollers. This is all a byproduct of out-of-control attacks on law enforcement. They're not breaking the law by trying to enforce the law. You can say you don't agree with the policy, but what's happening now is one of the clearest cut examples of Trump derangement syndrome I have seen, and I've seen a lot in 10 years.